Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. My name is Suzanne, and I'm the head coach at G.R.A.C.E Financial Coaching, and I help the financially stuck master their income without dismantling their lifestyle. Today, we are talking with Kara Walker. Kara graduated from college debt-free and is now on a quest to help others do the same. Kara has her own podcast called Money and Mental Peace, which helps students get scholarships, pay for college without student loans, and provide like-minded advice. Kara is a Christian entrepreneur, amateur snowboarder, and a recovering overachiever. She enjoys goal setting, budgeting, and living a debt-free lifestyle. How are you, Kara?
That's awesome. Thank you so much for reading all that. Not like that's awesome, like me awesome. I just mean like that was a whole spiel. And just making sure you can see me because you cut out for a minute there, but I can see you and hear you now.
Oh,
So,
yeah. No, we're good over here. We are
okay.
getting some weather today as
Awesome.
we're recording this. So it's
There we
it's
go.
par for the course. Yep. So Kara, tell us about the podcast and what do you guys normally talk about on there?
Yeah, so my podcast, as you mentioned, Money Mental Peace, I help students get scholarships and pay for college without student loans. It's just the general tagline. But that can be stuff anywhere from stuff talking about like college questions and issues, college funding, scholarships, some of my story, which was also testing out of classes, not only getting money for scholarships or for college, that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is lowering the cost and some really great ways that even people nowadays are getting some like free credits, and other
explain
things.
to our audience what testing out actually means, because there's going to be some people on here who have kids that are 6 years old and maybe it wasn't an option for them or it just wasn't explained.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there are some tests. I think one of the most widely known is like a CLEP test, which stands for College Level Examination Program. But there are different kinds, anywhere from more like national ones to just like taking a test at a university. But for example, this can give you just a gist of it. Like a CLEP test, it's basically like you go to a testing center. And for me, I didn't have to be a part of that college that I was at the testing center because I took these tests a couple different places.
Okay.
But to take a test, and it's basically it's just like if you pass the test, then you get college credit.
You automatically get the 3 credits for the English class that you were supposed to sign up for first semester of freshman year, and you don't have to take it then.
That's it. So, and like it can be stuff that you already know, or people are savvy now and there's like study guides, even like if you don't know a topic, just like could study this topic and go test out of it. So it depends on how long it might take. If math isn't your favorite and you want to try to do math, maybe that won't work the best. But like I did like a business management course or something. And I just looked at the studied the study guide and took it and passed it, just kind of like general stuff. So you can go and pay for that and get it. But there are some programs now that have either like reimbursement or sometimes with some schools, it's just free to see if you can test out of a class. Sometimes that means testing out in the sense of you skip this class, and you go to the next one. So like you still have to take a class, or sometimes it's just you get the college credit. So I actually tested out of my first year, basically, of college. I got 30 college credits just testing out of it. Yeah, and it added up because you have to pay for the test. Well,
sure. How much does the test run approximately, would you say?
Right. So nowadays there are ways to not do it, like I said, and get reimbursement and do other things. But when I did it, and maybe inflation has gone up from it, whatever, but it was like $100.
Wow.
Right,
yeah. So $100 for 3 credits is basically what the calculation turns out to be.
3 to 6 credits depends on what it was. I did like 3 different ones. I think I did college math, a humanities course, and I thought I did something else. I think even just the English, that all 3 of them had 6 credits. So I got my first year of college for around $600.
Oh my gosh. I mean, so I actually did test out, but they didn't actually refer to it as such. It was one of those situations that you kind of just alluded to where I didn't have to take I'm just going to use these terms loosely, but freshman English. And they gave us they said it at the time, I swear it was called like a ranking examination. And they wanted to see like where you were on their ranking system. And so I ended up freshman year of college in an English class with all juniors. And not even realizing they've put me in junior English, which means I now don't have to do freshman and sophomore English. The time that came in very handy for me was I changed majors very late to business my senior year. And the only reason I graduated on time was because there was 2 classes that I never had to take that everybody else had to take. So I had to take some extra credits senior year, first semester and second semester senior year. But I literally wouldn't have had time if I hadn't tested out of those earlier English classes. So it eventually helped me out down the road. Yeah. But no one ever explained to me like, hey, you tested out of these, so technically you'll never have to pay for them. That just wasn't explained.
Yeah. And no, a lot of this isn't like some colleges have these details on their website, but you got to go find them. Like, oh, we accept CLEP tests, or we accept this or that, but you got to go talk to the advisor and make sure they transfer. And that's something I wanted to note. Not all of these tests transfer at every college. So what I did was I had several schools that I was looking at. So I made sure that any CLEPs that I tested out of would transfer to those schools. So that is something to watch, right? But yeah, no, normally you just have to, you go to a advisor or like financial aid. And generally it's like, well, here's your financial aid package just based on your FAFSA. Here's how much in loans or Parent Plus loans you guys could look into. And they might be like, here's the general scholarship application.
Right. They're not going to go out of their way to provide this level of information. They're quote unquote just there to tell you how to get money.
Yeah, exactly.
How to get money that you owe later on, I should say. Money that you will eventually have to pay back. Because it's not coming out of their wallets, right? They're just, and the updated FAFSA, it's been such a disaster for some people. So yeah, you have to go to those people and find and then ask those specific questions. But if we don't know to ask those questions, how are we going to make good on it?
Yep.
That's great.
It's basically like what I learned. If I learned anything from college, it was like I had to be my own advocate to just like ask for this and what about this and how's this. So that's where there's the 2 sides of the coin of like getting more money, but also lowering expenses. So if something costs $1,000 and you get $200, that's great towards it. But if you can lower it $300, then you're playing half. Like, both sides are going to help. And sometimes advisors will help. And I don't mean that and like, they're just like terrible people or something, but like going in and being like, listening to their spiel and being like, okay, now I want to know about not just the general scholarship application. What about endowed scholarships? What about testing out of class? Like, even like they could still help you, but just you got to have you have to have the terms to go ask.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And the problem is generationally speaking, if parents have gone to college, that means absolutely nothing when it's time for their kids to go because it just changes so much.
It's so different.
So different. Exactly. And like I said, the FAFSA update over the last year has been just an utter disaster. I'm working with a mother locally here whose son went from being eligible for 3/4 to being eligible for nothing. And it was basically a computer error and she had to fight and fight and fight. She had to get the local media involved. It's, so that this whole new FAFSA update, even if you had a 15-year-old 3 years ago and now they're 18, it's totally different from whatever your family friends told you or whatever your niece and nephew went through. So it is, it changes so much more than we want to realize. And the cost of college, how do people, when people come to you or they're listening to your show, do some people just think they're completely priced out at this point?
What do you mean by that, in the sense of, like, there's no more available for them at that school, or
There's
just
either
that?
nothing or they're not gonna be eligible for enough, or, they
Oh,
got
yeah.
good grades in school, but not great grades, and, I'm not gonna qualify
Yeah.
for anything, and I don't play a sport. What do you tell those people? Because that's really the
Yeah.
initial route that everybody takes, right? Either academics or athletics, but there's way more.
Yeah. I do have a lot of people that say, "I probably don't get this or that, or I don't only did so much of the school," or whatever. So, I am here to bust that myth that some scholarships, not all, but some scholarships could care less if you ever did a sport, extracurriculars, or even have good grades. Now,
Mm,
some just say don't ask for GPA, so I guess you could have like a 1.2 or something. But a lot of them, there are quite a few who will say at least like a 2.5, which a lot of people have that much, and so there are so many scholarships out there, and I don't have an exact amount because scholarships seem to be always opening and closing because of deadlines happening. So take
right,
this with a grain of salt. But in my experience of just searching for them, it seems like half or more that I generally averaged find are not like you have to have a super high GPA or you have to
right.
have had all these extracurriculars. There's a ton that are just like, here, it's almost like, I mean, if you're listening and you're a student, like you're awesome. But a lot of these businesses that have scholarships don't care about you that much. And I don't mean that in like a rude, like they don't want you to like they hate you or something. But I mean, a lot of times scholarships are there to help students, but also boost maybe their business and their advertising or their market research. And not in like a they're just like cynical and hate other people, but it's usually supposed to be like a mutually beneficial type thing,
Right, if
right?
our name is
And
out
so
there, company ABC,
yeah.
who's local to this state school, they do a scholarship every year for,
Yeah,
children of police officers or something to
right.
that effect.
So it's almost like, don't take yourself so seriously because they really might not care if you have the highest GPA or you did all these, this or the other thing. A lot of times there's like, it might have to do with like a food hospitality company or like a recycling
Oh,
thing. And they're like, write, 500 words or 250 words about how you'd solve a problem for this. And sometimes there's even have been some I've seen in the past that are like, make a marketing video for us,
oh,
and then
especially with
it's like
social media,
helping
it's like,
them.
yeah, the kid that's going into college knows more about TikTok than the company does. That could be hugely
Exactly.
beneficial.
And so I don't mean that in like a snarky way, like you're not important as a student, but like honestly, a lot of them could probably care less your exact GPA or how
Right,
many. It's mostly like how can you help each other. And so just kind of hopefully that's both reassuring to you that you don't have to have the best looking whatever, or it could also be kind of like get over yourself. They're really not that for sure like have to
right,
have all these details. Sometimes it's just like we just want you to answer this question or write about something. There's a ton that are just like, why should we give you this scholarship? And
right.
some people might be like, I don't know. I have a good GPA, and a lot of times, good GPA is not exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for, have you overcome a struggle? Have you succeeded in bringing the community together? Like, and I'm being very general here because I don't know exactly what every scholarship judge is looking for, but it's almost like if you think you're being humble and like I don't have the best GPA and I haven't done a lot
Right.
of stuff. I mean this in the most loving way possible. Like get over
Who cares?
yourself. There's so
Yep.
many more out there that have nothing to do with that. So like you're
Right.
fine.
I know that there's one, locally here where I am that is, through the one of the private animal shelters,
Yeah,
and you literally just have to write about how, uh, being an animal lover has changed your life, or a dog
yeah,
that changed your life, or how
that's
volunteering to
awesome.
walk dogs has changed your life. And like, there's no GPA requirement. They don't care what school you're going to. And it's a
Mm-mm.
decent amount of money. It's like $1,000. And,
That's awesome.
that's a lot for an animal shelter to shell out, but it creates interest in the shelter in their
It
foster
does.
program every single year. So yeah, you're right. They're
It's
getting
usually
the
a combo
marketing.
thing.
Right, right. They're getting the marketing, they're getting the exposure, they get to post it on social media and who won and why they won and here are the entries, and it, it
Yeah.
it generates buzz locally. And again, it's a local animal shelter, so they're not looking for a Super Bowl commercial. They're
Yeah.
looking for local people to come in and adopt animals. So just that little bit of marketing goes a long way for them. So yeah, I think the misconception that you need to be a 4.0 student or a 4.8 student needs to definitely be broken, because people hear scholarships and they think, oh, my kid's not eligible. Oh, I'm not eligible. And yeah, that's just not, that's not right. So for you, did you get any of those scholarships, like the ones where you just wrote the essay?
So here's the funny thing that's going to almost contradict myself, but bear with me. I actually did not get a ton from
Okay.
essays I wrote,
Okay.
which it might be kind of like, oh great, you're telling us this stuff and you're saying you're not do that. No, that's not exactly what I'm saying, because I've seen and heard of enough people that have gotten scholarships from that. I feel like I'm a little bit more of a testimony to those people who don't like to write and are like freaked out on the other spectrum. Like, okay, like I get it that there aren't a lot of like maybe some that don't need GPA or don't need a certain sport or whatever, but like writing is just the most terrible thing for me. I mean, I don't mind it, but I mean that might be what they're thinking, right? So
Right.
I feel like I'm kind of a testament to, there are some out there that don't have to do with that. So I got a scholarship from honestly just being in a certain club in my community college, and it like transferred over to the university, and they're like, oh, you can apply for this one and you just have to prove you were in it. Like I've
Yeah.
had that. I got a choir scholarship in our community college, so I got funding to sing in the choir. I got I guess you could call it a scholarship. They called it a quote unquote education award when
Oh
I
yeah.
did an internship through AmeriCorps and other stuff. So it's kind of like a stipend and a funding. So it's a little different because it was like you had to finish this certain uh, project or season of work and then you would get it. So it's kind of like you knew it was coming, but they couldn't call it income for tax purposes. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
you
what
don't
I'm
want it
trying
yet in that situation,
no,
you actually don't want them to count it as income for sure,
no, no,
so
no, no. And then there's other one like when I was just a writing tutor. So I did like to write, as you can hear in this. They called it writing fellows, but I was a writing tutor, and they would pay for a class for doing that, but I actually had my classes paid for because of all this other stuff I was doing. So they're like, well, here's a gift card to the bookstore. So I got free books from being a writing tutor. And being a writing tutor, it was not paid, but it was part with the course and
Mm.
experience, so I might as well get books for it. Like what I'm trying to say
Yeah.
is, yes, do these scholarships that you can write for, but like I didn't just do that. You might sometimes people hear like, I applied for 100 and got this many thousands of dollars and whatever. That is awesome. Like do that, like go for it. But I feel like I'm kind of more the testament of a mix up of a lot of things. I ended up not, I did apply for scholarships, but I ended up not only relying on that. I got to a point where I did apply for some essay ones, but I kind of could quote unquote stop at a point because I got funding from these other things
Oh,
and a
okay.
grant and the education award and testing out of classes, so it was cheaper. So I feel like I'm kind of this weird like mutt of a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff because I did scholarships, grants, internships, just paying flat out cash,
Yep.
um tutoring that got me money to a gift store or bookstore, not a gift
Yep.
store.
Yep.
um I think I probably already said testing out of classes, and I also did like um general student jobs at the school, which yes, it's a job. Oh, I also got work study for a season,
Yes, I was
so
gonna say,
throwing
we
that out
used to
there.
call one level of
Yeah.
that work study, yeah,
Yeah,
mhm.
there's two different types. There was one that I did get work study for a season, but then also I just got a job there
Okay.
at one of my schools, because I say one of because I went to community college and then a university. And what happened with that is because it was at the school, I if there was it was not busy, I could just sit there and do my homework. Whereas
Right.
at another job, maybe you could, depending on what's going on. But if I'm going to go work at Subway, you're going to like people are coming in and you're going to be doing stuff, right? So like I would work at a desk job and transfer phone calls and then just sit there and get paid to do my homework. So I was
Right.
also thinking of other ways like how can I get paid to live my life basically.
Right.
I got paid to sit and do my homework at a desk job. I got paid to work at a gym, and I honestly just got paid to work out because it wasn't busy. So I just was like, I'm just going to work out and get paid. And like, I got paid to tutor, but I purposefully did the tutoring early in the morning when not a lot of people would come so that I could just sit there and do my homework.
Oh. Oh my gosh. So it was like tutoring hours, like you sat at the
Yeah.
library, and if
Yeah.
somebody needed you, they needed to show up between
Yeah.
9 and 11 or whatever it was.
Oh, and yes, there's that. And I was paid to be a note taker because there's like disability services or different people that might need additional help or can't take notes as fast. So honestly, I was already in the class. Instead of writing my copious notes in my notebook, I wrote it on this special paper that you rip it off. So it's the carbon copy and it's 2 papers. And
Yes.
I hand it over to the dude who, well, you don't always, sometimes you can take them to the disability office if the person doesn't want to be known
Oh,
who
I gotcha.
is
If they
getting the
don't,
notes.
right.
But this guy was fine. He's like, "Hey, Kara, thanks for taking my notes," And so I would just hand it to him. So at that season, I got paid to just sit in class and take notes, and I was
What
already in
you
the
were gonna be
class.
doing anyway, right.
Yeah. Now, to clarify, all of these paid at the school, paid to do homework, paid to sit in class, take notes, they were all minimum wage, to clarify. But I was like, I don't care if it's minimum wage because
Right.
I'm already here. So it's like I didn't get a ton of these essay scholarships. Maybe because I just didn't have the best entry, but also I kind of stopped after a point because I was doing all these other things. So it's just,
Yeah.
hopefully that's reassuring to people that you don't need the best GPA and all the extracurriculars, and you don't even have to like writing, because there are some out there more and more now that are make a TikTok or a video or this project or
Write a
I don't know,
jingle
just
for a company or something like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's one that's
Mhm.
design a t-shirt
Oh my gosh.
and design
That's
a greeting
amazing.
card. There's a
Right.
greeting card one. So like it's possible. There's stuff out
Right.
there. But
Right.
I feel like the hardest part, and I do, even though I'm giving all these like free reign, like you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. You usually do have to advocate for yourself or ask
Oh,
questions.
yes.
And
Yes.
that can
I
be
think
hard, I
that's the
understand.
number one, really, I mean, so much information that you've already provided. But one of the huge takeaways is if you don't advocate, if you don't go out and ask about the information, no one's handing it to you.
No.
And I think that's really a big wake up call to parents who are looking at what their kid could be taking on in student loans, $150,000 over, 2 years. And they're like, yeah, no, we don't want you to do that, but we don't know any other way.
Yep.
So that's definitely
Yep.
that's definitely reassuring, but you still have to advocate. So Kara,
Yeah.
with all that being said, it sounds like you've done so many smart things when it came to college. What would you say is the dumbest thing you've done with your money when it came to
So
your college career?
yeah, so I feel like I I I feel like it's just not knowing what I know now. And I don't mean that in like a, oh, I didn't have a terrible dumb thing with money. Like, cuz we all are dumb with money at some point in some way. Like we don't always understand. But it's more just like knowing now the direction I could have gone to get there faster. Although faster is not always better,
Right. That's
sometimes.
true.
Like at least I graduated debt free. But I think there are some things on just like not knowing what I don't know. And that is probably what a lot of people are feeling in regards to scholarships and other things. For example, I could have honestly the choir scholarship that I ended up getting, I didn't tell you earlier, it was actually a full ride to our
Wow.
community college. So it's community college is 2 years, so that's why I did all this other stuff for the rest of my funding and my schooling.
Mhm.
But like there are people who don't even like they've sent emails out before at the school I went to and they're like, last year we had this many scholarships on like unawarded, so please apply for things.
Oh,
Like I was like, okay, and I hadn't even heard that there was a full ride choir scholarship thing until the second year of school. And then so I did it the second year and I'm like, oh man, I could have had 2 full years. Well, then I learned that there's an matriculation agreement that you could transfer a bunch of stuff from community college to university. And then I stayed at the community college for 2 more years. That's anyways, long story of just saying I just think I'm sure I made like dumb investment or buying this or buying that decisions, but I don't know exactly a one thing besides just a general of yes, I did all of this stuff to graduate from college debt free, but it's even more that I probably could have researched at the start and I probably could have known right away, oh, I can jump into this full ride thing or I
right.
can save this much, or I can do this other thing. And I think it's just even to the point of, so I guess my answer is a lot more abstract, even to the point of like, had to get my mind around the concept that it was okay if it took me longer
Okay.
than other people because I would be debt free. So yay, like that's fine. And but like even some people that might be like, okay, yes, it's awesome that you have a whole bunch of needed but do a bunch of research, but that sounds overwhelming. I'm supposed to start school this fall or next
Right,
fall or
right.
whatever. Like, I am not against a gap year to do your research and prep your life. And the Bible even says someone who's going to build a tower, don't they take time to sit and look at the plans? I'm paraphrasing here, okay? But
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I think I did that to yeah, I think I did that to a point, but I could have probably done it even more. And or even maybe just stuff that I didn't do with my money. Like, honestly, I
Mhm.
probably could have used a therapist in college, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah,
I was
no, I
anxious,
just actually I just had this
I was
conversation with somebody,
stressed.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's sometimes it's not what I did, like, "Oh, I was dumb and I spent it on this thing." It was probably like I could have really just cared for myself more and allowed myself more flexibility that it can take longer. You can figure it out. You can go slowly through the process. And I'm not sure that was an exactly like one answer for you,
No, I
but
think it's
I
great. I
but I
think
had
the moral of the
okay, but I
story for
had
everybody, yeah, the moral of the story for everybody is, like, take your time. Look into
take your
this stuff.
time, research it.
Yeah.
Probably don't jump too fast into stuff, and also take care of yourself. And honestly, that's the reason I called my podcast Money Mental Peace, because in the
Mhm.
midst of trying to do the money for college, I was stressed and anxious trying to figure it out. Sometimes, not
Yeah.
always, some stuff worked out and it was fine and whatever. But like it really goes together. Right? I mean, Dave
Yeah.
Ramsey's thing is even Financial Peace University, and
Right,
that's
right, having
it's
that piece
related to the
about yeah.
peace. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I
I
think I
love it.
think there's two sides of it is just like giving yourself the time, the research and whatever. And then I think maybe the biggest or the dumbest thing, even though it's hard to say that because I didn't know much better, but
No, right, and you don't know what you
hindsight,
don't know,
yeah,
so
is
yeah.
like just giving myself grace to figure it out or to have therapy or something like that. Like sometimes it's that I didn't spend money on myself because I was more of the saver.
Oh, okay.
um and you might have, I don't know, I've seen some of the stuff on your podcast, but you might have a bunch of people on that are like, the dumbest thing is I just spent all this and I spent all that. Sometimes being a saver isn't always helpful if you don't take care of yourself or
Nope, it's
research stuff
very true,
ahead.
it goes both ways, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Kara, thank you so much, and all of Kara's contact information is in our show notes today, her podcast, her Facebook group, her Instagram, and if you wanna shoot her email will be in there as well. So, Kara, thank you so much for joining us today and all of your honesty, and I hope everyone will join us next week for another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. Thanks, Kara.